Hello and welcome to the Down to Finance podcast by Future Finance Group. My name is Amy Tennant and today I am joined with Sarah and we have a very special guest in the house, Andrew Date from Industry Insider. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I guess we'll just jump straight into it. What is it that a buyer's agent does?
So a buyer's agent specialises in representing the buyer's best interests. So traditionally, real estate selling agents obviously will represent the seller and they'll get paid by the seller. The rise of the buyer's agent has really grown over the last 5 years. And so we have the buyer's best interests. So we help them with searching for properties, negotiating, completing due diligence, reading the play, and overall saying no to a lot of properties and finding the best ones available.
Okay, that's excellent. And what would you say is the biggest difference between a real estate agent and a buyer's agent? Like, we've obviously had a decade together, we've worked together. How about you explain a bit of your history? You've obviously come from a real estate agent background and now you've transformed into a buyer's agent. What would you say the biggest differences are?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think it's good to start with the reason why I decided to pivot. And the reason why I decided to leave the selling agent career behind was purely and simply because I could see buyers being misrepresented and not really, some of them think that the real estate agent's working for them, but they're getting paid by the seller. And I just saw a lot of buyers making mistakes, being misled, buying the wrong type of property. And I thought, this is crazy. These people need representation. And that was 10 years ago. So the biggest difference is when you pay for independent guidance and advice from a professional who's been in the industry for a long time, you're getting independent advice. You're not getting advice from a selling agent who will tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
Yeah. And just to confirm, like, a selling agent is representing the vendor of the property that's selling. So their best interest is with them. And I think in different countries like America and so forth, it's totally normal over there for clients to always have a selling agent and a buyer's agent. Like, they wouldn't know any different, would they?
Yeah, absolutely. Different parts of the world have had buyer's agent representation for many, many decades. And in Melbourne, there's been around for about 30 years. The last 5 years, it's exploded. When I pivoted 10 years ago and started the company, there'd be about 330 buyer's agents across Australia. Now there's over 3,000.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, excellent. And in terms of the process, once a client reaches out and says, Andrew, I'm looking for your services, what's the process that you would follow with that client? What's the journey that they go on?
I'll qualify them. I'll ask them some questions about their budget, their circumstances, the areas they're looking to buy in. And we're in a fortunate position now where we don't say yes to everybody. So if a client calls and they're looking to buy in an area or a type of property or a price point that we're not comfortable or professionals in and have really good, deep relationships, then we'll refer them to somebody else. So we don't say yes to everybody, which I think is a big point of difference. So when they come on, we'll send them a form, they'll fill it out, they'll have all the attributes they're looking for, the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, the budget, what they're buying for. Is it a family home? Is it an investment? And then we kind of continue the conversation and build the rapport from there.
Yeah. And that really takes like the stress and I guess the emotion out of it as a purchaser. Once you are engaged, you really take control of that situation and you're doing all of the research, all of the inspections, and you're just relaying that information back for them to make an educated decision.
Yeah, we definitely take control, but it's very collaborative. So we never force clients to make decisions. It's always on their terms.
Yeah.
A recent example, we had a lady that came to us via another mortgage broker and she'd been looking for 18 months alone, kept missing out and out and out. She was looking in the city of Kingston, so Chelsea, Bomb Beach, Carrum, Edithvale. And she'd been looking for, she was just fatigued. And when buyers get fatigued, they make poor decisions. They'll just rush and go,
rush into whatever's available.
I'm fed up. I'm just going to settle for that. And I had a really deep conversation with her, and her budget was 850, and I said, look, what you want and what your budget is actually isn't in alignment. You either
That doesn't marry up.
Yep. You need to either adjust your expectations of what you want or increase your budget. Luckily, she increased her budget and we brought her something off market in Chelsea that we paid $985, and if that went to market, it'd be $1,050,000 to 1.1 every day of the week.
And that's something that we probably haven't spoken about, is the fact that with your relationships that you build with real estate agents, you're opening the door up to off-market opportunities that the everyday purchaser wouldn't have access to. So I know that I've obviously had some clients that we've referred to you and you've had excellent results with. But how many properties would you assist with that are off-market?
Yeah, it does fluctuate, the amount of off-markets that come through, especially in different areas. Like right now in Burundara and Stonington, which is like Toorak, Armidale, Prahran, Hawthorn, there is an abundant amount of off-market properties between 3 and 8 million. And that's because we're coming into winter. Now, you'll find in those markets a lot of people travel, so they won't list online. They'll say, look, this is off-market for a period of time. And then come spring, if we're not sold, we'll launch a full campaign to the market. So the off-markets fluctuate in terms of how many we buy. Again, that fluctuates as well. The last 5 purchases, 3 have been off-market. That is quite high from a percentage point of view, but overall it'd be about 20%.
And just for our audience that is listening right now, some of them might not understand what off-market actually means. Are you able just to highlight what that is?
That's another really good question. Off-markets can be thrown around a little bit loosely, and it shouldn't be the only reason why a buyer engages a buyer's agent. There should be many more reasons than just off-market, because an experienced buyer's agent brings so much more to the table. It's like a mortgage broker. You're not just going to a mortgage broker to get the best rate. You're going to the mortgage broker to get a strategy and a clear understanding of what is available. So remind me of the question.
Yeah, so off-market properties, for our audience that doesn't maybe know, what's that vendor, what position are they in?
So to be a true bona fide off-market, it must be listed with an agent, it must have an authority, it must have a price, and it must have a Section 32 and a contract. If it's just an off-market because an agent's called a seller and they said, bring someone through, yes, it's off market, but it's not bona fide because there's no paperwork, there's no price, there's no Section 32. As you guys are well aware, you can't go and buy something off market if there's no Section 32 and contract. It's very hard to negotiate when there's no price. So we need to have those things in alignment to be a bona fide off market. On top of that, there's a layer where there might be a pre-market, which is slightly different. So an agent might reach out and say, look, Andrew, we've got this property. We're selling it, for example, in August, but we're going to run buyers through for 4-6 weeks off market. That would be called a pre-market, and then it will launch to on market.
And I think going back to what you said before about your client who had been searching for 18 months, obviously right now we're in what I would probably call a bit more of a confident market with 2 interest rate cuts. There's definitely more activity out there. If she was to go through 18 months now, the potential capital growth of her continually missing out is such a huge cost. I think the importance of a buyer's agent is if you're able to really identify the purchase price that's required from day dot, then the client's able to have the conversation with the mortgage broker or the finance company to say, this is where I need to be at in order to achieve the property that I need. And if it was a situation where, she kept it 850 and continually missed out, that property could quite easily be 1.1 in a confident market.
Yeah, it's unusual for buyers to miss out over 18 months when the market's so soft and flat. So there was something wasn't in alignment with that particular client. When the market turns, the market is transitioning now. It's coming from a bit of a dormant market to starting to really bubble away. Interest rate cuts and things are starting to move if they're priced well. This is the market where buyers do look for longer and they miss out on multiple properties and they get fed up and then they end up calling I mean, how many different pre-approvals have you given to some clients? That can be time-consuming. And
the indecisive.
Yeah. And it is very hard to buy your first home because it's such a big financial commitment. But the first one's the hardest. And once you've brought a few, we've brought over 600 now. So we kind of do this in our sleep, and we can kind of give our clients that nurturing and guidance that they need to make a really confident decision.
Yeah. And in terms of when they should engage with a buyer's agent, would you say that would be in their pre-approval status, or would you almost say that their ideal wish list, they'd be best off reaching out to a buyer's agent, confirming the wish list, getting a accurate purchase price range, and then coming to their finance broker, or working
in conjunction with
simultaneous to us.
Yeah, if a buyer comes to us and they don't have pre-approval, we can't really help them because we're not going to run around, look at properties and put all our resources and time and energy.
Get them hyped up, and then they can't obtain the finance, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if a buyer calls and they say, we want to buy a property, I say the first thing is, have you spoken to a mortgage broker or a bank? And they're like, yes. I'm like, great. What's the story? What's the pre-approval? What are the guidelines? What are the conditions? And work from there. But they definitely need to be working with a strategic mortgage broker from day one so that we're all on the same page, because that client, one of the reasons why she couldn't find what she was looking for is because she was searching at the price point where it wasn't existing, and she'd kept missing out.
Yeah. And going back to that, you don't just deal with purchases in an owner-occupied space, do you, where they're actually going to live in the property? You deal with both sides of the table. You're dealing with owner-occupiers and investors?
Yeah. Personally, myself, if an investor wants to work with me, $1 million is kind of like the entry point for the kind of properties that I'm looking to buy. But yeah, we do help investors. We try to buy capital growth assets as well from an investment lens. The apartment space is quite unique, and at the moment there are investors returning from interstate, Sydney and Brisbane, looking to buy apartments because of the yields. But you've got to be really, really careful when you buy an apartment. They can come with a whole ecosystem of problems if you're not careful.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of obviously going to a buyer's agent, that you're really able to identify the pros and cons as early on, rather than, I know when I first got my apartment in South Yarra, I didn't realise it came with a car stacker instead of a car park. And, that was really difficult because my car didn't fit in the stacker. And, in a city, there was no car spaces. So, obviously if I had an expert that read over the, Section 32 and did a proper, due diligence on that property report, I would have obviously known about that prior to settlement. So yeah, there's definitely some pros and cons that you would identify quite early on in the journey.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting you say that. We had a client send us a property in Toorak that had a car stacker. It was an apartment, and I ruled it out straight away. I was like, I've been to that building. It's got a car stacker. Cross.
Yeah.
And we just save time.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that we'll bring to the table is time. Like once you've spent your time, you can't get it back. It's the only commodity that you can't buy. So working with someone who understands that and will save so much time. It's like
you're like weeding all the rubbish ones out.
It's like it's a little bit like dating. You know the dating apps? How you just people are swiping left. On realestate.com, we're like going left 80% of the time because we know the fundamentals aren't good, the orientation's poor, the location's no good, and apartments are no different. Like there's buildings that have just got massive red flags, high OC fees, problematic neighbours, higher tenancies than owner-occupier, a building that's going to block the view in the future. It's just a minefield. And if you think you can do it yourself, good luck. It's going to take longer and it's going to cost you money.
Yeah. And I think like Sarah, you're a mum of 3 kids and, upsizing your family house, like, I mean, the time that was invested into like weekends going to open homes and midweek open homes, and even trying to find the time to fit your life into an open home on a Saturday morning. Like,
between kids' sports and, all the scheduling that comes with kids. Like,
so I think obviously being able to allocate or outsource that, like I always say, like if you can't do it yourself, or you're not an expert, then outsource it to an expert.
And I think, like, going back to, I was thinking before, like, it's almost like a buyer when you sort of go and you fall in love with a property, and that's when you sometimes can make mistakes because you've got your rose-coloured glasses on. Do you know what I mean? I feel like your job is to then filter that rose-coloured glasses and be like, open your eyes and have a look at X, Y, and Z.
The emotional brain trick kicks in, and you get excited and you see competition and you just kind of get carried away. Like, you've really got to think bigger picture when you're buying property. You can't think short term. You've got to think medium to long term, especially from a family perspective.
Like schooling, all of those sorts of things.
One of the things I saw mistakes buyers make early in the journey was they'd buy a home thinking that it was big enough for them, and then 3-5 years, kids come along, they need to sell it and upgrade. And they're actually better off stretching and getting a better property
in the beginning
time because of the stamp duty, the emotional costs, the time. Yeah. So
the moving.
Yeah.
I've just done that.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
How was your journey buying? How long did it take?
Mine was fairly quick.
Well, that's good.
But the moving part, I'm still recovering.
And the agent experience, how did you feel? Did you feel like the selling agent was representing the vendor's best interests, or did you feel like they were?
Yeah, the vendor for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think obviously one massive positive to working with you, going back to those rose-coloured glasses, is that when you have someone that is an expert in, property, and you've got a vendor who's working for the best interest, a real estate agent working in the best interest of their vendor, they can put an extreme amount of pressure on the purchaser in terms of getting them to commit to, a settlement term that maybe doesn't fit with what they need. And sometimes, other special conditions like pest and building inspection and finance clauses and things like that. And sometimes it's quite hard as the mortgage broker to sort of say to your client, no, that needs to stay in there. And if it does, they might miss out. Whereas the best part about having a buyer's agent is that I'm going to say it like when you've got like two fierce people going like head
on your
to
team.
head.
Yeah.
Like the opportunity of getting a contract that's in the best interest of both people is really amazing, because, they're not going to railroad someone like Andrew into, a 45-day settlement if we've got another property to settle, and we then have to do bridging finance. And then bridging finance is,
costly,
a very expensive exercise. The best part of bridging for, a mill now is $11,500 a month. Like, it's quite high.
11%.
So I think, it's about 10.75. It's quite high, the bridging finance rate, standard variable rate, no discounts. So, I mean, if you're having a property that needs to sell and we can't achieve a simultaneous settlement, like sometimes that can be difficult. So I think, some really difficult conversations can be had by you, correct? Like,
absolutely. And I actually really like complex situation scenarios because it makes me work harder and think creatively. And settlement periods and terms and conditions can be quite creative. And I could imagine from your point of view, trying to settle loans and different timings of buy and sell transactions, it can get quite complex, especially if an agent has really forced what the vendor needs as opposed to what the buyer needs. And we try and negotiate from a position of strength. So very rarely we will have conditions on our offers, especially when the market starts to transition, because we've done all of our due diligence prior. If it's an interesting scenario like a development site, we might have subject to due diligence of 2 weeks and feasibility and things like that. But you've really got to read the play when you're a buyer as to the level of competition on the asset that you're trying to buy.
Do you have any tips for people in choosing a good buyer's agent?
Yep. First of all,
red flags or things to avoid, or
absolutely. So, like, if you're buying a property, say in the southeast of Melbourne, engage a buyer's agent that's got professional networks, relationships, and experience in buying properties in the southeast. Don't go and get someone from the north to buy in the southeast. You need a specialist, and you also need someone with experience. Ideally, Sarah, I don't know what property you brought, but it sounds like a family home.
Yeah.
If you had have used a buyer's agent, you would have interviewed a buyer's agent that specialises in buying family homes and at that same price point. You need someone that's got really strong agent relationships. Before the podcast, I had a phone call for an off-market site in Cheltenham in Pennydale, and I've got a client that might match that. So strong agent relationships, negotiation skills, the list. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, the list will go on.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap up. I just want to say thank you so much, Andrew, for coming and joining us today. Obviously, Andrew's contact details will be on the podcast, so you'll be able to obviously reach out to him if you have any further questions or queries. And we look forward to our next podcast, Down to Finance episode next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Amy.
Just remember to keep in mind, these podcasts are just general advice. And if you are after something more customized, reach out to your financial advisor, or you can reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help.